A senior Fano commander narrowly escaped. Security forces were about to reach him when he managed to flee, reportedly. Zemene Kassie is the name of the commander. Secondly, US government has issued a travel advisory asking its citizens not to travel to 8 countries. The important thing about this travel advisory is that almost all the countries mentioned on the list are not on good terms with the US government. Eritrea is also on the list. Why is Eritrea included in this list? Uh, let's start from the Amhara region, where we know that since 2023, Fano groups have been fighting the Ethiopian security forces. Zemene Kassie is one of the main Fano commanders. When Fano started reorganizing itself in 2023, Zemene Kassie was in prison. Later, he was released by security forces, and he then became part of the struggle by Fano groups. Zemene Kassie is very close to Eritrea. He's in touch with the TPLF too. So he has built his contacts more than other Fano commanders. And people question his release by the government too. Some say that maybe he is in touch with government too at some level. But Zemene Kassie group accuses Skandar. The Skandar is PP's puppet. So that's why it's difficult to say who is PP's puppet. But I personally think that PP wants to use each of them against others. PP wants to create divisions. None of them is a PP puppet, but PP wants to use them. PP wants internal fighting. ENDF wants internal fighting in Faro. So sometimes it gives a hint of some support for one Fano commander just to pit him against others. Zemene Kassie narrowly escaped reportedly this week in an operation conducted by the Ethiopian National Defense Force. The operation was conducted in Gujam, West Gujam zone of the Amhara region. And in that operation, a close right-hand man of Zemene Kassie was killed. The last minute, he got information and he fled. Meanwhile, security forces have released some pictures from West Gujam. Last year, Fano groups claimed that they had built mortars. Zemene Kassie was seen in those videos when Fano fighters were shown firing mortars. And that mortar was named Zerihun 13. Government media is claiming now that development of Zerihun 13 was basically a fraud by Zemene Kassie Fano. And in this week, when security forces conducted a raid on a health facility in West Gujam, security forces showed some metal rods and a mortar-like structure built using metal rods. It was recovered from that health center in West Gojam by security forces. The health center was being used by Fano. And the government sources claim that this is what Zerihun 13 is. Fano groups have no mortar firing capability. Basically, they just manufactured these mortar-like guns to deceive the people of the Amhara region. By the way, this government propaganda is not correct because Fano groups did develop some mortars. They demonstrated those mortars. Maybe this mortar-like uh, structure built and recovered from the health facility in West Gujam was being used for other purposes, but Fano did demonstrated its mortars last year. But Zemene Kassie narrowly escaped reportedly at the last minute. He got information and he just fled the area. Secondly, was the US government has issued a travel advisory advising its citizens against travel to 8 countries. Which 8 countries? Afghanistan, Myanmar, Eritrea, Iran, Nicaragua, North Korea, Venezuela, Russia. Almost all these countries are not on good terms with the US government. So if US citizens are being advised against travel to Russia, it makes sense. If they're being advised against travel to North Korea, it makes sense. Afghanistan, we know, war-torn area. US and allies destroyed Afghanistan. Then allied forces led by US, they had to just retreat from Afghanistan, unrecognized by the US so far. Myanmar, military government in place there, backed by China. US does not recognize that military government there. Iran, we know, is a key rival of Israel, US ally. Iran, US not on good terms for years. Venezuela, all these countries are not on good terms with the US government. So the travel advisory is not based on security situation in these countries. I mean, there are several other countries where security situation is not favorable, but those countries are not included in the list. Why is that? Eritrea has been included. I mean, in Eritrea, security situation is way better than in some of the other countries mentioned on the list. So this list has been compiled on the basis of US relations with other countries. Those countries have been included which are hostile to the US. Inclusion of Eritrea is surprising. It means that the US State Department is still following old US foreign policy towards Eritrea, which Donald Trump, the US president, said is going to change. He wrote a letter to Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki, disclosed by Eritrean Ministry of Information a few weeks ago. In that letter, he announced the reversal of Biden policy towards Eritrea, and he hoped that a new era of mutual respect and bilateral cooperation will start. While US is making offers of restoration of good relations to Eritrea, it has included Eritrea on the list of those countries where US citizens should not travel to. It does not make sense. Either the authority in the US which issued this travel advisory relied on past US foreign policy towards these countries, which is undergoing a change, or so far there has been no considerable improvement in US Eritrea relations. That is why for the US, Eritrea still remains a hostile country. By the way, Eritrean President Afwerki said in an interview that in 2026, hopefully relations with the US will improve. It means the process has started, but it will take months to show some results in terms of improvement of bilateral relations between Eritrea and the US. Thank you for watching.